Taxes and Death, Part 3 of 3, a sidebar to episode number 038, The Watcher's Net, a personal finance and self-reporting shadow series Detour, continued. Welcome to our Stuttgart community messaging platform called the OPSEC Minute Extended. On Mondays, we used this space and posted YouTube videos to share both a little OPSEC, or Operations Security Wisdom, along with an occasional Marvel team-up bridge that ties into other regulatory security disciplines and policies. Please feel free to like, share with family or friends, or subscribe and check out the video of this and other OPSEC Minute extended stories on our YouTube at Secure Narratives channel. Simply click the link and let our stories capture your imagination as they play in the background while you tackle your morning routine and backlog of email. Now, on to this week's Secure Narratives. Shadows and Blind Spots. Prologue. Rain hammered the windows of the Stuttgart Army Counterintelligence Office at Patch Barracks as midnight loomed. Inside, the operations center hummed, monitors casting a cold glow across Agent Marcus Hale and Agent Alina Petrov. A world map dominated the screen. Red markers pulsed across Europe, Germany, Italy, Spain, Poland, the United Kingdom. Each represented U.S. personnel overseas. Beneath it all, a chilling pattern. Marcus leaned forward. "This isn't just Stuttgart." Alina shook her head. "No, it's a targeting model. Precise, insidious." The word lingered like a blade. Act 1. The next morning, the secure conference room at Patch Barracks felt like a vault, the air thick with anticipation. Jessica Jez Navarro walked in, her stride purposeful, a controlled urgency in her movements. Her friends, a tight-knit circle bound by shared assignments and late-night coffees, already sensed the gravity of the situation. Caleb Donovan, usually lounging, sat upright near the back wall, a watchful glint in his eyes. Maya Thompson's fingers hovered over her laptop, her expression a mask of focused concern. Luke Weber, typically a font of easy humor, looked unusually serious, his gaze fixed on the front of the room. At the head of the polished oak table, James J.B. Brooks, the OPSEC officer, stood beside Command Security Manager Alonzo Edwards. Edwards, a man whose presence commanded respect through quiet authority, held a printed document Jess had just handed him. He skimmed the pages, his normally calm expression hardening with each line. "This list," Edwards began, his voice a low rumble. Jess nodded, her eyes steady. "It's expanding. The pattern we saw last night, it's not localized. It's a continental spread." J.B. Brooks folded his arms across his chest, the motion tightening the fabric of his uniform. "Financial vulnerabilities." Jess's voice dropped, a quiet confession of a darker truth. "Yes, but it's worse than that." She stepped forward, her finger hovering over the spreadsheet displayed on the main screen. "Look here." She pointed to a column, each cell filled with a chilling intimacy. Travel plans, detailed itineraries, future dates. Her finger moved to the next column. Social media activity, not just general posts, but specific conversations, likes, follows. Even deleted content. Then, her finger landed on the final column, a stark summation of personal despair. Debt indicators, foreclosures, bankruptcies, medical bills, student loans, all meticulously cataloged. A silence, profound and heavy, settled over the room. The hum of the ventilation system became a distant drone. GB muttered, the words barely audible. "They're building recruitment profiles. Not just identifying targets, but profiling their entire lives." The implication hung like a shroud. Act 2. Within hours, the garrison commander, Colonel Edward Sanford, convened a leadership meeting. Around the polished conference table sat the key figures of the Stuttgart command structure. Command Sergeant Major Christopher Melendez, a granite pillar of military discipline. Directorate of Plans, Training, mobilization, and security. Director Kyle Curry, already running scenarios in his mind. Protection Chief Robert Taylor, a silent sentinel. Online romance targeting. Emotional manipulation, building trust, then exploiting it for sensitive data. Debt creates pressure, Petrov concluded, her gaze sweeping across the faces at the table. And pressure creates opportunity. For them, Sanford's eyes, usually warm, hardened. Act 3. Across the installation, the message spread. In Army Community Service, Annika Patel sat with a young soldier PFC Miller, hands clenched tight. "I thought I had more time on my loan," he admitted. "We fix it," Annika said calmly. "Payment plan, budget, transparency." He hesitated. "I have to report this, don't I?" "Yes." His voice cracked. "Will I lose my clearance?" "No," she said gently. "Hiding it would. That's the real risk." The tension in his shoulders eased. Act 4. Elsewhere, life carried on. In a busy cafe, Jess and her friends mapped out summer travel. Luke traced an ambitious route: Swiss Alps, Lake Como, Barcelona. Caleb laughed. "That's 2 months, not 2 weeks. Jess smiled. "Remember OPSEC, even on vacation?" Maya groaned. "No geotags, no early posts, no unit patches we know." Jess's smile faded slightly, especially now. The laughter returned, but thinner. Act 5. 3 nights later, the world outside Jess's apartment window had turned quiet. The rain, a distant memory. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the oak tree outside. Her phone, resting on her nightstand, buzzed. A new email, anonymous. Subject, lesson learned. A prickle of unease ran down her spine. She opened it cautiously, her finger hovering over the screen. Inside, the same spreadsheet. The familiar columns of names, units, financial data. But one column, the most chilling of all, had been deleted. The targeting column, it was simply gone. Instead, a new line appeared at the bottom of the document, stark and simple. Awareness reduces opportunity. Jess blinked, rereading the line. "What the?" Her phone rang, startling her. The caller ID flashed Marcus Hale's name. "You saw it?" Marcus's voice, usually laced with a dry wit, held a note of quiet triumph. "Yes." She paused, still processing. The deleted column. The message. Marcus chuckled softly, a low rumble in his chest. "Well, that's interesting, isn't it?" Jess frowned. "What? What do you mean?" "We traced the email server," Marcus explained, his voice losing some of its levity, sharpening into professional focus. "It was a ghost server, designed for anonymity. But we found a faint digital breadcrumb, a signature embedded in the code. And," Jess urged, her heart thumping a quick, erratic rhythm, "it belonged to a cybersecurity research group. A highly reputable, black hat turned white hat organization. They track foreign intelligence influence campaigns. They've been monitoring this particular cell for months." Jess blinked again, a slow realization dawning. So, this whole thing, the spreadsheet, the anonymous messages, the escalating data, was a warning, Marcus finished, his voice firm. A highly effective, deeply unsettling, and ultimately successful demonstration of vulnerability. They wanted us to see how exposed we were. They wanted us to understand the scope of the threat without a direct attack. Act 6. The final OPSEC briefing filled the auditorium. JB stood at the front. "You are targets, not if, when." The slide appeared. Financial pressure, social media, travel exposure. "These are the openings," JB said. "They build profiles from small details." Alonzo Edwards stepped forward. "The solution is simple: be responsible. Manage finances, protect your digital footprint. Be transparent." He paused. If something goes wrong, report it immediately. Act 7. That evening, Jess stood overlooking the Stuttgart hills. Vineyards stretched into darkness, city lights flickering below. Her phone buzzed. Caleb, taxes paid. Crisis avoided. Maya, payment plan set. Clearance safe. Luke, trip still on. No geotags. Jess smiled softly. Sometimes the biggest victories were quiet. Epilogue. Inside the command building, the late-night quiet was broken only by the soft rustle of papers. J.B. Brooks and Alonzo Edwards reviewed the final report, their faces illuminated by the desk lamp. J.B. leaned back in his chair, a rare, relaxed posture. "Not the most dramatic threat we've ever dealt with, Edwards." Edwards smiled slightly, a subtle curve of his lips. "No, but one of the most important. Perhaps even more so." J.B. nodded, his gaze distant. "People think espionage starts with spies, cloak and dagger, classified documents changing hands in dark alleys." Edwards replied calmly, his voice a low counterpoint to the night. "Most of the time, it starts with a personal problem someone tried to hide. A small vulnerability allowed to fester in secrecy until it becomes a gaping wound." Outside, the lights of Stuttgart shimmered across the valley, a vibrant, living tapestry. Life on the installation returned to its familiar rhythm. Travel plans continued, meticulously checked and double-checked. Spring festivals approached, promising warmth and community. But now, the community understood something new, something profound. Security wasn't just about protecting information. It was about protecting each other. It was about shared responsibility, open communication, and the quiet strength of collective vigilance. And sometimes, the greatest vulnerability wasn't the enemy. It was the distraction, the personal blind spot, the unaddressed problem that, in the shadows, could become a weapon. Shadow Series to be continued. Episode 039. Thank you for sticking around as we continue testing the boundaries of an extended storyboard. Think of it as security training with a plot twist and a fresh way to both educate our team and connect with our military community. Subscribe to our YouTube @Secure Narratives channel. Okay, hit us with a like and watch for our new updates. Also, if you have other suggestions or ideas or are interested in a personalized name drop or your work center's inclusion to our tales, don't hold back. Send a quick note to share your thoughts. We're all ears and ready to make things even better. So, until next Monday's OPSEC Minute Extended, keep those comments coming.